one of the things we were talking about last time you were here was that when you explained that there's 700 different languages that these Aborigines have, and that a mob, that's what they call like a tribe, a mob of Aborigines, could be just 10 kilometers away from another mob.
Yeah, so one community to the next.
They don't know what the other people are saying.
Yeah, they wouldn't know their language.
Which is crazy.
It is crazy, yeah. And then, like, imagine that many different countries inside of America.
Right.
Like, there'd be so much conflict. So a lot of these communities had conflict with one another, and then certain amounts of them were actually pushed off the land as it become, farmland or whatever it might have been, and have now been pushed into like communities where there's all these other separate countries, essentially dialects, that have got to now coexist, and like they've been at war with one another since the dawn of their time. So it's like it's pretty full on when you think about it like that. And then the other thing that's really hard is, how do they teach that in schools where there's 700 different dialects?
Are these, and they're not documented, these dialects,
A
right?
lot of them aren't. A lot of them are dying out with the people, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a shame.
This thing that you were saying about these cave paintings that show these animals, can we find those?
You probably could, yeah. I'm sure there's something documented on the net, more than me just saying they look similar. I'm sure
Right.
there's something like that. But like whether they were a spiritual person or animal or being is hard to say. But you hear stories about the hairy people and things like that. Like that ain't people, eh?
Yeah, what is that?
Australian Yowie.
It's like a really skinny Darth Vader.
We put the Western word on it.
What is it? Yowie?
Yowie, like your Bigfoot.
Oh. So did they... Whoa, what is that image? That's the Yowie? So this is...
That looks like the bloody devil eating someone
idea
there.
of something that... So these... And there's more... Wow, there's more than one of these.
Yeah.
Huh. This thing that they... What are they
Queen
showing?
Can. Yeah, look at the similarity in them.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
And what are those
Gets you
things
thinking.
to the left of it? Like, what is that thing?
I don't know.
Like, what are all those things? It looks like a giant ball floating with a string attached to it. Like, but there's so many. Scroll back down again, Jamie. There's so many similar images of these long-armed creatures with 4 fingers. Whoa!
Isn't that amazing, eh?
Do they know how old these paintings are?
I'm sure they do know some of them. But there's artifacts going back 70,000 years now.
Whoa!
Yeah, 6 toes, whatever that is.
Yeah. What is that thing?
So, and there was like big like events in the last 10,000 years, as in like meteor strikes and things like that. So it's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, there was a big one that's detailed off the coast of Australia around 5,000 years ago. Like, look at these things. How weird. Look at their heads.
Aliens, Joe.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So like, yeah. I think there's even some paintings of like spaceships,
Really?
or what you would consider as spaceships.
Wow. Now, did the Aborigines, do they have a history of the use of psychedelics? Are there psychedelic drugs?
Take it there.
Yeah.
Well, I guess because there was a lot of bush medicine that they used. So, whatever the side effects
those
could have
things.
been of that.
Look at those fucking
Yeah.
things. Like
Look how many there is.
bush medicine. Like, what does that mean?
Like just natural herbs, natural things that, it might be the sap of a tree. It might be leaves boiled up. It might be some sort of nut.
Australian rock art might be the oldest in the world. Wow.
Does it actually say how old?
Look how
60,000 years.
fucking
Yeah, I know.
60,000 years ago, and they look like aliens.
Yep.
I mean, those look
Isn't that
exact.
incredible?
Giant black eyes, huge heads. That looks exactly like the classic gray alien.
some paintings might also mean something else. So, like, I know we're looking at those as faces, but,
Right.
So one of my company's logos it's a bunch of dots, and the words Nalia, which is in the Nullamar language, which is like the community that I'm near. In the Nullamar language, it means like people come together to create a community. And then so those drawings that we just looked at could also be similar to that. Like there's two communities that are coming together.
Oh.
The line in the middle might mean this is their land, which could be a ridge line, so your land's there, our land's here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole circle around it could actually mean the world or community, everything together. So even though it looks like a face, it could actually mean something a lot different.
Right.
And that's one of the difficulties in Australia with teaching the traditional peoples past is there's so much to it, and there's so much that's not understood from one community to the other, so it does make it very difficult. But it's sad that it is getting lost.
Well, and when you're dealing with 700 different languages and people that have lived in this area for 60+ thousand years, I mean, that is crazy. Yeah. I mean, how much work is being done to document all this stuff?
I don't really know. A lot of these communities are very remote, so I don't know how much help there actually is for them. I don't know how many people can go to a place like that to document it. Right. I don't know how many people are actually qualified to document it either. So, it is very difficult.
And do they have written language when it comes to this?
Yeah,
all of them?
I believe so.
Yeah. So there's 700 written languages.
I don't know about written language, really. Because it's one thing to speak a language because that's what you know, but what reason do they have to write it down?
Right. Do they have an alphabet like we do, or do they share the alphabet?
I don't believe so.
Whoa.
Yeah, I don't know enough to say too much because I don't want to offend these people,
Right.
And I'm definitely no expert on it. I can only give you, what I do know and what I've heard and learnt myself. But I think a part of the struggle in Australia with Aboriginal culture is that it's not a written language. So, like, how can it be passed on to someone else? You're either in the family and you grew up listening to the language and understand it,
right?
Or you don't. So,
or you don't. Yeah.